track between menarche and menopause. Menarche means the onset of menstruation, and menopause means the cessation of menstruation. Heavy bleeding during these periods, during periods or lasting for more than 7 days, or bleeding or spotting in between the period. This is just briefly for you to register. So what are the types? There are many types of abnormal uterine bleeding. First is polymenorrhea. Polymenorrhea is poly means many, means frequent, you can say. The normal menstrual cycle is considered between 21 to 35 days. So if it is below 30, if the menstrual cycle repeats in 21 days at regular intervals, it is called as polymenorrhea. Another is, second in the line is menorrhagia, that is excessive bleeding, heavy bleeding at regular intervals. Then the third is metrorrhagia. Metrorrhagia means you can just remember meter, means there is alteration in the menstrual cycle, means prolonged menstruation at irregular intervals. So patient comes to us and says they don't remember the last menstrual period. They just get so confused because there is hardly any gap, or there is a lot of gap. So that is metrorrhagia, alteration in the cycle. So you all, whenever any presentation, whenever any patient comes, they should remember and what exactly are the words. There is no need to remember the technical terms, but at least you can simplify it by knowing, giving the history properly, so that we can put it both properly. So another is, the fourth one is the menometrorrhagia, means combination of both menorrhagia and metrorrhagia, means excessive bleeding.
Excuse me, doctor. I think your slide is lagging behind. The number is still on the second one. Yeah, second one. It's still on the second one, at least on my screen. Yeah,
okay. Types. Huh? I'm on the second one only. I have not switched.
No,
over.
yeah, on the types. Now this is the third.
Yeah, the third I have already told you about. Have you registered?
Yeah,
Should I repeat it?
Yes.
Metrorrhagia is prolonged menstruation at irregular intervals. Means there is, the cycle is disrupted. The menstrual cycle is disrupted. Okay. Then the fourth is Are you able to hear me, or
yes,
am I
yes,
properly audible?
You're perfectly.
Okay.
No, now they're proper.
So, yeah, menometrorrhagia is both, means menorrhagia and metrorrhagia. Okay. And the fifth in the line is, there are many actually, but I wanted to discuss only that are relevant for all of you. I mean, for people who are not in the medical field. So the fifth one is oligomenorrhea, means less menstruation, infrequent menstruation, and more than 35 days cycle, means the cycle is also disrupted and the flow is also disrupted. Okay. Then causes, I will just elaborate the causes in brief. I mean, I will just highlight the causes, and then I will also tell you in detail about the age group and everything. This is just in general. Pregnancy complications is the first cause, means pregnancy in the beginning. In some cases, in some patients come with bleeding in the first 3 months of pregnancy because of hormonal problems. Means if the hormones to sustain the pregnancy are less, means that there are two hormones most of you must be knowing, because we need to know basics about our system. It's not just menstruation and pregnancy and all that. We know that our whole body is governed by these four hormones: FSH, that is follicular site stimulating hormone; LH, that is luteinizing hormone. They are all secreted by one of the lobes in the brain called pituitary. And there are the other two hormones called estrogen and progesterone, which are secreted by the ovary, by the ovarian cells. And ovary also secretes a male hormone, but in less consistency. So this estrogen and progesterone are mainly responsible for pregnancy, but to sustain the pregnancy, progesterone is very important. Whenever progesterone levels drop, in pregnancy, the bleeding starts. Okay, so this is also because it is a abnormal uterine bleeding. It comes in the abnormal domain. So I am just putting it in this. Second is also, this comes under pregnancy only, abortion and ectopic pregnancies. Abortion, as you all know, it is just when the bleeding, when the progesterone levels drop. There are many causes, but you just have to just register this. And in abortion and ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy means if the pregnancy is somewhere outside the uterus.
Fallopian tube.
fallopian tubes, not only in fallopian tubes, it can be in the ovaries, it can be in any other pelvic organ which is close by, but mainly it is found in the tube and the ovaries. So that also causes abnormal uterine bleeding, because that is an abnormal site of the pregnancy, and the uterus is confused whether to, uterus is prepared with the inner lining of the uterus to shed the for the fertilized ovum to be embedded, but it's confused when the ovum is not coming the uterus to the inner lining of the uterus, it starts shedding it out. So that is also, that comes in the pregnancy. Then certain genital diseases, that genital means any diseases related to reproductive tract. For example, tumors, means tumors can be benign, like fibroids, polyps. They are very common. You all must be quite acquainted to all these problems, because they are very common. Then tumors can be malignant also. Malignancy means they can be malignancy
excuse
of
me,
the
doctor.
uterus is divided into,
Excuse me, doctor. I think your slide is not moving. What happens now, whenever somebody enters, it gets stuck. So I think you have to.
Okay, my slide.
No,
I'm on the third slide only. I'm on the
types only
with the causes only. Yeah, I'm on the third slide only.
No, it is showing types.
You can hear me now. Types, okay.
We can see only the types.
No, types I have already finished, but there's something wrong. If somebody is entering, it is something is going wrong.
Whenever somebody enters, no, it gets blocked. So you have to stop the share and restart again. On the top, you can stop.
Okay.
Share again.
Share. I'll start. I'll restart again. Okay.
Yeah. Stop the share and restart. Okay. From now we can see. Yeah. Start it again.
Now you can see.
Yes.
No. Start now.
I have to share. Yeah.
Start the screen. Next time, go be careful about people entering late here.
Yeah.
People enter late and really see it.
Yeah. Now we can see slide. Yeah.
Okay, I was somewhere here. Okay. Yeah. Causes. Yeah. Can you all see?
Yes, we can see now.
Okay. Now just see some. I'm just hearing the bell. It may again go off. Again, have to repeat.
No, we can mute the people. Okay? We can mute in the settings.
Yeah, whatever. So is it okay? Because I think you only wanted them to.
You go in this flow now. No problem.
Okay. So tumors also cause abnormal bleeding. Tumors can be benign and malignant. Benign tumors, you are very well acquainted, because it's very common these days. Many of you must have already gone through this these problems. Fibroids, polyps. Fibroids are hard, overgrowths of uterus, and polyps are soft overgrowths of uterus. Then malignant tumors means they can be from the mouth of the uterus, that is the cervix, or from the inner lining of the uterus, that is the endometrium, anywhere in the uterus. Then ovarian malignancies also give rise to some amount of abnormal uterine bleeding. Then some infection, acute infection, chronic infection causing inflammatory changes, they also cause I have written PID. PID means pelvic inflammatory diseases. Means pelvis. Any inflammation in the pelvis, any area in the pelvis, will also give a reactionary abnormal uterine bleeding. Then IUCD. IUCD is intrauterine contraceptive device. If any any lady has been this intrauterine contraceptive device inserted, that also sometimes give a reactionary bleed in the form of abnormal uterine bleeding. Okay. Now these were.
Voices.
Then is it okay now?
Yeah.
These till now I discussed about the causes related to the reproductive tract, means genital area. Now there are some extragenital causes not related to the local reproductive system. Those are endocrine causes. Many people these days, many people are having thyroid problems. Either it is hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. Means hypothyroid is excessive secretion of thyroid stimulating hormone, and hyperthyroid is low TSH. Both these conditions will give rise to abnormal uterine bleeding. Basically, you have to register all this, so that you must be under this impression that we have got thyroid. It's not related. This bleeding may not be related to it. But this is just for your knowledge and for your information, that this also you have to think in. If you are having some problem, you have to go to the doctor. The doctor will diagnose, but you should not ignore it. Okay, so there are so many patients coming to me and telling me, why should we get our thyroid checked? You have to see we are having bleeding, but that's not the thing. Everything is related. Everything can be related. Then hematological means if the patient is, if the lady is anemic, if in anemia also causes bleeding, abnormal bleeding, and it is a cycle. Anemia causes abnormal bleeding causes anemia. It's absolutely, I mean, it's just hand in glove. So we need to, that will come in the treatment. I'll discuss about it later. Chronic systemic diseases means if any woman is having some problem with the liver, like liver failure, renal failure, kidney failure, which gives, which affects the coagulation profile, means the clotting system, because, what happens is menstrual blood should clot. In these cases, patients, the clotting is not there, and everything is, the whole system is confused. So this is also, this is what you have to keep in mind also. Then there are some drugs which cause this abnormal uterine bleeding, that is oral contraceptives taken to as birth control, anticoagulants. If the patients are having some heart problem, they take this aspirin, Dispirin, or heparin and all. They also cause, they are known to cause abnormal uterine bleeding. I'm not generalizing. I'm talking about, it happens. We can think about these causes. Then emotional stress. This is very, very common these days. Emotional disturbances cause a lot of, have a lot of role to play these days, in this, causing menstrual disturbances. Means, it's not only the uterus which is involved in abnormal uterine bleeding. Along with the uterus, ovary, plus the brain, the hypothalamus, which is controlling the whole system. Any deviation in the axis, which is very much affected with this emotional disturbances, causes abnormal uterine bleeding. And last but not the least is obesity. Obesity is it's a very, very crucial thing these days, that obesity disturbs this hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. I mean, I'm talking little technical, but I don't have any substitute for that. I have just told you that there is, there has to be a coordination between the, hypothalamus, that is from the brain, where all these releasing hormones, all the system, everything is controlled. There has to be balance between those hormones plus the ovarian hormones and the uterus. There has to be all the three have to be balanced. In obesity, the balance is broken. That is why there is abnormal uterine bleeding. Okay. So now I will elaborate in terms of, so that, you remember. First I will just, age-wise, the abnormal uterine. I have generalized the whole thing, but now I will just, tell you one by one. First, I will talk about women in teens, in 20s and 30s. Now, patients come to me, teenagers. You must have experienced. So many people come to me. I have majority of my OPD patients come with their mothers. The mothers bring these teenagers, or the teenagers come alone, early or late teenagers. But they come with abnormal uterine bleeding. Nothing has to be done. I will talk about that in the treatment part, but nothing has to be done. The reason is, again, the immaturity of this axis. See, this whole bleeding, abnormal bleeding, menstruation, abnormal menstruation is focused on this axis. Axis means the way we drive a car, how we have to have a coordination between the clutch, accelerator, and the steering. Any discoordination is we cannot, the car will not go. The car is not going to start, and it's not going to go ahead. Similarly, there has to be a coordination between this hypothalamus, pituitary in the brain, plus the uterus, plus the ovary and the uterus. If there is any discoordination, we need to, this is what happens. But in the beginning, in the teenagers, this is absolutely normal, because there is immaturity of this hypothalamus, pituitary and ovarian axis. This settles down on its own. So nothing to worry about it. Then what is most common, what has been discussed last time, Dr. Bindu must have discussed, this is polycystic ovarian disease, that also sometimes causes abnormal uterine bleeding because of the faulty ovulation. So whenever the egg is released, only then the uterus gets a signal to shed the inner lining of the uterus in the form of menstruation. If the signals are wrong, so it's uterus is going to just shed will not know. It gets confused whether to menstruate or whether to shed. So this is how polycystic ovarian disease have a role of irregular, abnormal uterine bleeding. Then pregnancy, which I have already discussed, especially in the first few months. And of course, in the later months, if the placenta is low-lying, there is bleeding. So this is just to sum up. Then birth control pills or intrauterine devices, which I have already mentioned. Birth control pills also sometimes, because they are hormones which we give from outside to control the inner hormones, to, you can say, to give a negative feedback to the inner hormones, so that, ovulation doesn't occur. And when the ovulation is suppressed, sometimes it causes abnormal uterine bleeding. Then hormonal imbalance. This is usually common after the 30s. I have already told you, most of it is overlapping. Now, estrogen, in the body makes the uterine lining. It makes the uterine lining thick or whatever, under the influence of estrogen. It depends upon how much estrogen is in your body. Estrogen is the main hormone which is secreted by the estrogen, and progesterone are two main hormones secreted by the ovary. So any alteration in the estrogen levels, will cause the make the uterine lining thick or thin, and subsequently make the uterine lining shed. If the balance is proper, if the estrogen and progesterone are properly secreted, or if they are not suppressed by any other hormone in the ovary, everything will go smoothly. Okay, so then come age group 40 and 50. That is perimenopause to menopause. Perimenopause means before menopause. It usually starts, Indian age for menopause is 45 to 55, but perimenopause means before menopause. The changes in the body start occurring before menopause, that is around 40. So this is called before. Peri means before, and to menopause. Here, usually the ovulation is irregular. So you have to, bear in your minds that this happens in a lady. This this is absolutely a normal phenomena. It happens in a lady 3 times. First at the at menarche, when the young girl starts menstruation, that is also normal. And then just before menopause, that is also when the ovarian function is it's little quivering. That also is absolutely normal. And third phase starts when when the third, which I have not mentioned, which is not necessary here, but I just wanted to tell you. Third is when, after pregnancy, the lady starts, menstruation, after lactation or whatever. So these 3 phases are absolutely normal. They don't need any treatment. So this is just in between. I have just, I thought I'll just elaborate this also, because I just remembered to talk about it. So I that is not in the, it's mentioned in the slide. So I was just telling you about this perimenopausal, before menopause, or pre-menopause also it is called. Here the ovulation becomes irregular, means egg formation becomes irregular because of the age. The estrogen starts receding. It's not the level of the estrogen starts falling. I mean, the graph starts falling. The ovulation graph starts falling, and that also gives rise to, I told you, estrogen is, as I've already mentioned, estrogen is the main hormone which is responsible for, menstruation, along with progesterone. And this causes abnormal uterine bleeding, which I have told you, there's nothing to worry about it. But sometimes because of the quivering effect of the estrogen, thickening of the uterine lining becomes, beyond a certain limit, which can be a warning of uterine cancer. You cannot just take me for granted by telling you that, everything is okay, so no need to go to the doctor. As I have told you, 3 phases, you have to be, just take it easy. But at the same time, if it is, you need the medical professional or gynaec to tell you, but this is normal. Sometimes it can go unnoticed, and you are under this impression that abhi menopause, I'm just approaching menopause, so this could be normal. No, you need to see a doctor if at all you have any deviation from normal uterine bleeding. Okay, then also at the same time, examination has to be done by a doctor. You need to go to the doctor if you have any deviation, to see if there is any lesion in the mouth of the uterus, that is called the cervix, which may be ulceration also because of this hormonal, normal hormonal imbalance can become abnormal anytime, but then you have to, have a warning in your mind that you need to see a medical professional rather than taking your own decisions. It could be, early malignancy also. So you need to consult a doctor if you have, especially after 40, if you have any irregularity in your menstruation. Then comes women after menopause. So women after menopause, normally if a lady menstruates after 6 months of cessation of stoppage of menstruation, it is called menopause. If the a lady doesn't menstruate till 6 months after stoppage of menstruation, then we can label her to be menopausal. And if a lady comes with bleeding any time after 6 months, we have to investigate. It's a very, very important thing you have to register in your mind. Never ignore this is called postmenopausal bleeding. That is what I'm talking about, women after menopause. It could be some ladies come to me or go to any other doctor and say that we have got hot flushes. Usually if the menopause comes on time, hot flushes and all are have to be ignored. But if the menopause comes little early, means around maybe less than 50, around 45, then you can consult a doctor for any hormone replacement therapy. But sometimes hormone replacement therapy also gives rise to abnormal uterine bleeding. Then you also, after menopause, if there is any bleeding after 6 months, you have after 6 months, not before 6 months, but there is no subjective rule that you have to wait for 6 months. Even 3-4 months, after 3-4 months of cessation of menstruation, if there is any bleeding, even for a day, you need to go to the doctor. Let the doctor decide whether it is normal or not normal. But usually after menopause means stoppage of menstruation. Patient should not menstruate, whatever is the case. So the deadline is 6 months. Any abnormal menstruation after 6 months, we need to see for uterine malignancies, polyps, which are very, very common after menopause. Okay. So investigations. This is roughly, I think I have covered most of it. So now come the investigations. Investigations are from this. I mean, we have to. I mean, I don't think you need to know about the investigations much, but you need to know a little bit about it. So I'm elaborating a little bit. Whatever is required for you to know. All of you are educated and you are well versed, and these days Google, everything is available on Google. So investigations mainly in reproductive age group, we have to do a pregnancy test, because sometimes if the patients come to me and say ki we are having regular menses, but isi baar thoda sa delay ho gaya, but otherwise aa gaya hai. In spite of that, why are you asking for a pregnancy test? But no, we have to do, because sometimes, as I told you, in early pregnancy also there is abnormal bleeding. That doesn't mean that you are not pregnant. So first and foremost, we should not just ignore it. We have to first do the pregnancy test in reproductive age group. Then also blood count to see for low hemoglobin, any other blood, some idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura from thrombocytopenia, many other diseases which can be behind this abnormal uterine bleeding. At least we can diagnose it. Okay, and then hormonal tests, which I usually get only serum prolactin and thyroid tests done, because serum prolactin is a hormone which is secreted by the anterior pituitary from the brain, which is also one of the hormones which is responsible for, you can say it's responsible when prolactin should be high only at the time of pregnancy and post pregnancy when the patient is lactating. If the prolactin is more, apart from these two, pregnancy and post pregnancy or lactation, if the prolactin levels are high, then we need to investigate, because prolactin is it's a milk hormone. It is responsible, it gives signals to the breast to secrete milk when it is required. When it is not required, why should the prolactin be high? And prolactin severely, if the high prolactin severely affects the sex hormones, that is the estrogen and progesterone. It lowers the estrogen and progesterone. That is how the abnormal bleeding is related to prolactin. So we need to get this prolactin levels done and the thyroid stimulating hormone levels done. I usually get all the three, T3, T4, TSH, but TSH is more significant. And then ultrasound. Ultrasound is most important tool these days for investigations, to see at least the image of the uterus and the ovaries, to know roughly what is happening, what is the size of the lining of the uterus, is there any problem, what is the size of the ovary, whatever, we cannot pick up everything on sonography, but at least some relevant points. Then there is something called as pap smear, that is papillomastoid stain. Also to know, usually after 40s, it has to be done. In the West, it is done after 30s only, but here it is recommended after 40s. People don't come, they come very rarely, but it's recommended with or without abnormal bleeding to know if there is any cervical malignancies, means malignancies from the mouth of the uterus. Then endometrial biopsy, it's an extension of pap smear. Pap smear is an OPD procedure, and endometrial biopsy we have to do under general anesthesia. I will elaborate it later, to see the inner lining of the uterus. Endometrial biopsy is a blind procedure. We just scrape dilate the mouth of the uterus under general anesthesia, short general anesthesia, and scrape the uterine lining. That I will discuss later. And the last one is hysteroscopy. Hysteroscopy is, it's, you can, I don't know whether I should talk about it or not, but I'm just giving you a rough idea about what is it's a thin metallic tube with a telescope attached, and it can be inserted inside the mouth of the uterus through the canal, which is connecting the body of the uterus and the mouth of the uterus. And it has a camera in it. We can see, in DNC, in endometrial biopsy, which is called a dilatation and curettage, that is also a minor procedure. This is also a minor procedure. The difference being that here you can see what you are taking out. In endometrial biopsy, we can miss the lesion. At least if we are seeing through a telescope some suspicious area, we can, take a biopsy from there. These are the investigations. Then prevention. If somebody asks me how can we prevent dysfunctional, abnormal uterine bleeding. Abnormal uterine bleeding can't be prevented, but if it is caused by, but it can be kept under control, and the causes can be looked after, but it cannot be prevented. We cannot do it. There are no vaccines to prevent these abnormal uterine bleeding. It is there, and our body is subjected to so much of ups and downs. These graphs of these hormones are related to the ups and downs throughout our life, from the time the menstruation starts till the time the menstruation ends. And it cannot be prevented, but it can be controlled. And most important thing is, if it is caused by hormonal imbalance, it cannot be prevented. But if the hormonal changes are caused by overweight, then losing weight can help, as weight affects hormone production. Okay, so treatment. I'm elaborating the treatment. I have generalized it first, but now I'm just individualizing it. It depends upon cause of bleeding, age, and whether pregnancy is desired in future. So first, I'm discussing about this IUD, that is intrauterine device. This is, mind you, this is very different from the one which we use for birth control. That is intrauterine device that contains a copper wire, which is, wound around, a plastic, it's a polyvinyl, glycolic acid. That plastic, pipe, a small pipe is a miniature pipe is in a form of a T, so that it fits the shape and size of the uterus. And there is a copper wire wound around the middle stem, and this makes the sperms inert. That is used as a sperm, you can say spermicidal, or it's used only as a contraceptive device. This is also an intrauterine device because it is inserted in the uterus, so it is called an intrauterine device. But this is called Mirena. This contains hormones, mainly progesterone, which can significantly reduce, abnormal uterine bleeding. Slow release of these hormones can reduce abnormal uterine bleeding. Then birth control pills. Earlier, I'm contradicting my statement, but earlier I have told you birth control pills also cause sometimes irregular shedding, bleeding, but birth control pills are also used to control this abnormal uterine bleeding. Okay, then hormones. What are these birth control pills? There are two types of birth control pills. One is combined pills, that is estrogen and progesterone. Hormones like combined pills containing both estrogen and progesterone, preventing abnormal uterine thickening. Because when we give this birth control pills, we are hampering the ovulation. When we hamper the ovulation, normally this inner lining of the uterus is not going to be as thick as it would be in normal ovulation. So this is how it controls the abnormal uterine bleeding. It also controls the flow and cycle, both. That's metorrhagia and menorrhagia. Then there is another pill called progesterone only pill. The same pill, the same progesterone which is there in Mirena, which releases locally. But here, so many patients tell us, that we don't want to take any tablets, so we give her something. So we suggest Mirena, which is a locally, where the hormone release is locally to reduce this. But this progesterone can be taken. It's called a mini pill. It can be taken it can be given in some women who are having heart problems, who are hypertensive, because estrogen is also said to cause elevate hypertension, you can see. Okay, so then I just want to elaborate this. What is dilatation and curettage? Dilatation and curettage is the scraping of the uterine lining. As I have told you, it is done under general anesthesia. It can be done as both diagnostic and therapeutic purpose. Diagnostic means we can diagnose what is the reason, to exclude malignancies, to exclude, to know whether it is because of hormonal imbalance, or if there is anything else. Sometimes tuberculosis also causes this abnormal uterine bleeding, and sometimes tuberculosis of the genital tract. And also we can take the lining of, some material from the lining of the uterus and send it for testing to know what it is exactly. And also therapeutic means if we scrape the lining of the uterus, we are just removing the extra, the tissue which is responsible to give because of the imbalance of the uterus. Because of the imbalance of the hormones, the lining of the uterus is not uniformly formed, and because of this, what happens is some portion remains still there, and I'm talking about abnormal uterine bleeding in case of hormonal imbalance. Some lining of the uterus remains inside, and usually in the next cycle it keeps on. The whole normally when the whole during menstruation, the whole lining has to be shed off. The uterus becomes completely empty. Around 3 to 4 millimeter is the thickness of the uterus post menstruation. And pre-menstruation, before supposing a lady has to menstruate tomorrow, day after tomorrow, her endometrial inner lining should be around 14-15. So this 14-15 will that is 1.5 centimeters. So it is going to go down to 3 to 4 centimeters. But in cases of this abnormal uterine bleeding, this lining doesn't go, it remains somewhere 7-8, so that next time it gets collected again, and in between it sheds, there is which has to be shed, it remains inside only. So this therapeutic means what is not done, what the body is not doing, we are doing. Means we will just clean the uterus and just clean it completely, so that in the next cycle the proper, it's just an assumption, it doesn't work in most of the cases, but in some cases definitely it works. It depends upon the condition, the diagnosis, what we get in the diagnosis. But we clean the uterus so that the new cycle is formed. We try to create a new cycle. We try to give some pepping to the hormones. Okay, this often, usually about, you can say in about 40 to 50% patients it controls bleeding, but within 6 months in some patients, in around 30 to 40% of patients, it comes back again. Means we have to think about some other treatment ahead of this, because we cannot just keep on doing DNCs again and again. So it becomes mandatory, this dilatation and curettage. I'm not saying everybody should do it. It becomes mandatory after 40 years if symptomatic. If symptomatic means if there is any abnormality in the normal uterine flow. So another, which I have already elaborated it earlier also, hysteroscopy means, here the difference between dilatation and curettage and hysteroscopy is both are done under general anesthesia, but hysteroscopy gives a better vision of the, excellent vision of the uterine cavity, because it has a camera attached in it, and we can, it's most unlikely to miss the biopsy, to take the biopsy of the suspected area. It is highly sensitive and in detecting the intrauterine pathology as compared to DNC, but it is a costly equipment. Then last is the hysterectomy. That is the last resort. If nothing is working, then we think of hysterectomy. That is the surgical removal of the uterus, which can be open or laparoscopic. These days we prefer laparoscopic because because of the advance and the side effects, the stay in the hospital, patient can go next day. That is this. And then there is one more in between, which I have kept it for discussion in the end. It's called endometrial ablation, because most of you must not be knowing about it. Endometrial ablation it's also a surgical procedure. What we do with our by doing a dilatation and curettage. It's a dilatation and curettage is a blind procedure. I told you, we just guess what we are doing out of our experience, and we remove the inner lining of the uterus. That is called the endometrium. This is also a removal of the inner lining of the uterus, but it is done under vision, and we use cautery to remove the inner lining of the uterus, so that we don't we take out uterus has 3 linings. Inner lining is called endometrium, middle lining is called myometrium, that is the muscle, and outer lining is called perimetrium. So we see to it that we use a cautery, it touches the muscle of the uterus also, so that this endometrium is completely scraped off. Nothing is missed. And little bit of myometrium also, the middle lining of the uterus, just a thin layer is also scraped along. I mean, cauterized means they use a cautery to just destroy the whatever you can say the lesions we have inside the uterine cavity. So this usually stops bleeding in women, but few may have regular periods, but few may have irregular periods. It may work, but usually it works. People who want to preserve their uterus, it may work. But sometimes, very rare cases, you need to use birth control measures, though pregnancy is very rare. But patients do, this is basically just a psychological satisfaction for a lady to preserve the uterus. Otherwise, we should not expect pregnancy. But at times we, in some percentage of cases, there have been pregnancy. But though usually the pregnancy doesn't go beyond 2-3 months. It's usually patients abort in the first 2-3 months, because most of the inner lining and the uterus is not very healthy for pregnancy, for the ovum to be, to get embedded. Okay. So there are some non-hormonal treatments like hemostats, means oral, how we control, there are some, when we have bleeding from anywhere else, we give some hemostats just to control the bleeding for some time. Or if it is just, sometimes it is just, we don't know the diagnosis and we just give this is called gynae CVP, ethamsilate, pause, just to control the, local control of the bleeding. Also, sometimes we give this ibuprofens, ibugesics, and these are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They also sometimes control the bleeding. These drugs restrict heavy flow. Just mind you, I want you to I want to emphasize, these drugs restrict heavy flow till the diagnosis is made. They are not, this is not the final treatment. We have to know what is the diagnosis. This is just, okay, the patient comes till the diagnosis is made. She cannot wait. She's bleeding heavily. I have to give something, so I give this. Then also the most important, especially in India, even if there are so many affluent people, there are so many educated people, but still most of the people are anemic. I mean, even, people from high society, I have seen patients are having, even from your NRI complex, I have patients coming with 7 grams, 8 grams hemoglobin who belong to very high-fi families and all that. So neglecting this is just taking for granted, we are, in India, mostly the women health is not so, it's little, neglected in spite of, females being as competent and as working as parallel to the men. Usually, you have to give a lot of importance to diets, and especially iron supplement diet, to overcome this blood loss. Because as I told you, if iron is less, if the hemoglobin is less, again you will enter that vicious cycle of less hemoglobin, heavy bleeding, less hemoglobin, heavy bleeding. Okay. So living with abnormal uterine bleeding, this is most important. This is just summing up. Now, what happens if you live with abnormal uterine bleeding? You don't want to go to the doctor. You just expect that everything will be fine. It can impact a woman in a negative way, because a lady will not know when the bleeding is going to start. She'll not know pretty well whether she's outside somewhere, she's in the market, she's going for a movie, she has some guests at home. Suddenly the bleeding will start. So it's, this is a very negative way. Suddenly, a woman gets very anxious. What is happening? Why am I having this? Why anytime starting bleeding? Why it is so heavy? No idea of how the bleeding is going to be. then also limitation of daily activities, including preventing outdoor activities, swimming,